on the board, but you don't know what's going to win. If you say no, this one's going to win.
Good evening. To call December meeting of the Madison Board of Education Commission to order. Excuse me, we're starting the meeting.
We've got some feedback.
I said.
So, start of our meeting, we will open with the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening. Thanks to Holly's efforts, our other meeting room is filled with toys for the Toy Closet, and also we're trying to incorporate a hybrid Zoom meeting to let more members of the public participate, and I guess the technology only allows us to do that in certain rules. Al, welcome as our liaison to the Board of Selectmen. First order of business, is there a motion to accept November minutes as written?
Motion to accept November meetings as written.
Second.
Any changes, additions, modifications?
And there's a typo on page 2, second paragraph that starts with Captain Perkins. Third line, or identifying patterns, it's just missing the letter N. Patterns of criminal behavior.
Thank you.
With a written reprimand in Holly's file. Thank you. Any other changes? Motion to accept the minutes as modified.
I move.
Second?
Second.
Okay. Thank you. Motion to accept the minutes. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Accept as modified. We do have members of the public here, and as always, we welcome any comments. If you would like to make any remarks at this point, we just ask that you identify yourself and your street location, and we welcome your input and participation. Yes, please.
Hi, my name is Linda Maniatti, and I live on Lenore Drive, which is off of Summerhill Road. So I'm here to let you know that I care about two things deeply about this town. One is educating our youth, and the second is safety of our family. And so I'd like to speak about the safety of our families tonight. I think it's really important that the police department be funded in a way in given the tools they need to keep us safe. I will give you an example of what happened to me. One evening, it was late, I let my dog out, and I'm out on our lawn, it's late at night, and I see something moving by my mailbox. Like, what could that be? And I'm like, hello? It was a rainy night, there wasn't a lot going on, he didn't have a flashlight, he didn't have a dog, there was no reason for Eddie to be there. So I said, is someone there? And he said, yes, it's Eddie. So I go through my mind, Eddie, who's an Eddie? Do they have a dog? Who are they? So I realize I don't know an Eddie. And I get my dog, and I go in my house, and I call the police department. And they send 2 police cars, because there had been people trying to steal cars. And they said that night was the perfect night. A little bit of rain, whatever the accommodations were, they sent 2 police cars because they were concerned. I happened to have a guest, so there was a car in the driveway. And so it ended up we weren't able to catch Eddie or whoever he was. But I think when you live in Madison, Connecticut, one of the things you really hope for is to have safety when you open your door, that you have safety when you park at Stop and Shop. And when you live in this town, I would love it if we could fund the police department in a way that allows us to help reduce crime, help us reduce car theft, help reduce people who don't belong in our neighborhoods looking for an opportunity to steal or cause harm. And I haven't heard of anything yet right now where guns are involved, but I think we are just one step away of one person in our community walking into a situation and the person who is going to do the crime is taken aback and they could pull a gun. So I think I'm here because I care about safety of our town, and I would love it if we could make Madison safer and more comfortable so that we don't fear when we let our dogs out at night that we have to look beyond our driveway, by our mailbox, and behind our shoulders. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think your comments have been echoed several times in the concern, and I think we have absorbed as a commission, and certainly the chief is absolutely in concert with the expectation that people have to feel safe. You described the situations and the standards that we all want, attracted us to Madison, many of us to Madison in the first place. So we appreciate your perspective on it. Anyone else?
My name is Cynthia Perry. I've lived in Madison for over 35 years. I'm president of Barbary Farms Association, and as you know, we came out in numbers. I think we had about three and a half days to pull together some of our recommendations and petition. And in Barbary Farms, we had 62%. 62% of our residents signed that petition, okay, in 3.5 days. People don't feel safe. A lot of people down in where I live and where many of these people here are older, and they don't feel safe. I understand that Madison has many constituents, and everybody wants their piece of the pie. But if you are a mom or a dad or know somebody, the first thing that you owe your children is to keep them safe. And we're not, because not only could something have happened to an older person, but something could have happened for my kid when he was 18 years old and walking home late at night and it was rainy, and our family decided to do something about it. And so we worked, I'm in advertising, and my son is also in advertising, he's a copywriter, and he is the person who did the campaign for you all about remembering to lock your doors. I have not seen one of those mobile, whatever you call them. Not one. This entire,
I think he agrees.
pardon me?
I think he agrees. He agrees.
I think that's Karen.
But I've not seen one. I don't know that that kind of activity does much, but I do know that the police department actually wrote an article in the local paper that not much had changed a year ago, but the one thing that had changed was that the campaign, lock it or lose it or lock it or lose it, whatever it was, may be the one thing that had made a difference. Why aren't we doing more innovative things? Why are we not actually seeking to, and I know you have, I know certainly that the chief has been talking to other individuals in the community to see what their best practices are, but we need action, not just thoughts. And how do we create the financial incentives for people to feel safe?
So, thank you.
Hi, I'm Lynn Brown. I am co-president with Grandma over here on Waterbury Avenue. I live on 14 Waterbury Avenue. And I certainly am not going to repeat what these women have said so articulately. I'm a finance person by trade and accountability, and I understand the town has, like everybody else does, limited resources. So I think that there is, sufficient incentives to finally figure out how to unlock resources in our budget to address this situation. It just, can't go on. And I'm confident that the community would also assist in any of these creative ideas if we wanted to, put together work groups to support activities. But we're a top quartile school system. That's why people come here. And I believe we've gotten to the point where we have to start working towards being top quartile in terms of police capability. Because what's happening in the state is not something that we as a town can control. So we have to do our best to mitigate, what's happening in the state. And so we're going to have to make some difficult decisions, I understand, from a budgetary perspective, but it's time, to invest and grow our capability.
Yes.
Good evening. Joseph Walden, 12 Bayview Place. I'm in the Barbary Farms Association, and the association, as Cynthia points out, has numerous incidents, but takes it very seriously. So they asked me if I'd be an advocate, advisor, work with the team here to move forward in terms of the initiative to make Madison safer. I participated in the December 1st meeting we had with Peggy Lyons, the chief, a couple of you folks, Al, also Gene Fitzgerald, and Ed. And we had a good session. I think we learned a lot from each other in terms of what was going on, what we didn't know what was going to go on. And a couple of things. One of the reasons why I think Cynthia coerced or urged, volunteered me to do this is two things. One of which is I've lived in Bayview for 20 plus years. And also I was a victim. I had a car stolen on Easter Sunday morning, not this past year, some time ago. And it's a gut-wrenching experience. They subsequently found my vehicle up in Waterbury, totally trashed. I won't take you through all the specifics of it, but it follows the exact same thing. The car rolls down, and I had video. My driveway lights up like a surf club at a football game. I have audio, video, turned the tapes over, the images over to the police department. They subsequently found, they knew the person because it was so clear, the images were so clear. And subsequently, they caught this individual, couldn't do anything about it because he was 17 years old, and it goes through the tiered issues that go along with this problem. It's not just an age problem, it's not just a legal problem, it's not just a security problem, but it is a safety problem. And fortunately, it was 3 o'clock in the morning, and I didn't run downstairs and try to do something with the car. And a few months later, one of the officers of the police department came and said, "We will arrest the guy." And I said, "Well, how come? He was 17 years old. We shot somebody in the head." So when I was reiterating that the other day, December 1st, all this became so bitter again, just having lived through it. And it's not a great experience. We learned that the chief and his team have been working on this problem for over 18 months. They have a number of initiatives that they've tried to bring forward. Things like headcount, which is a very tough thing to do. It's really hard to get police people there. I just sent a note around that New Haven just swore in 19 officers. And that sounds like a massive amount. That brings them only to just over 80% of their allotted thing. And it takes a long time. And there's all, I'll tell you, if I had to be a policeman, I'd pick Madison over New Haven. But it just shows the magnitude of the difficulty. Also, I think when you think about, we heard a couple of stories. When I started talking to the residents and members of the Bayberry Farms Association, they're afraid. It is fear. And it's a safety issue. And it starts I could give you 10 anecdotal things other than my own. A couple of them that struck with me. Parents are afraid to sleep out with their kids in their backyards and their tents. Everybody's afraid to walk their dog at 2 o'clock in the morning. What happens when your kid comes home late? And all these things are real. And it's one thing to have a theft problem and a car jacking problem, but this is pure fear. And it's permeating the neighborhoods. And that's why literally, without warning any of the residents of Barbary Farms and sending this petition out, people jumped on it, and I was amazed at the take rate. But it just goes to show. So I think we're here, and I'm here to try to, as we understood what the chief is looking at in terms of head count, in terms of technology, that's potentially, expand, like it's called force multiplying technology. That's a fancy word for it. And if it helps, we're going to support it. And what we want to do is make sure we can get to a point of execution, because oftentimes when these things are brought forward, the hard part is getting the execution. And we're here to support that and look forward to, and we'll continue to work. We're getting meetings set up with the other, the Board of Selectmen and so on. But it's real, it's palpable, and I think we need to figure out a way to get this executed. Technology maybe at first is easier because human beings take a while to train and other things that go along with it. So with that, thank you for your time.
Chris here, Fort Grove, and I'm not going to echo the personal stories of others, but one thing I would reference, I attended the strategic planning meeting last night and found it quite interesting on issues that are clearly important, but maybe not always urgent. Things about land use and zoning, very significant, but it's not like having somebody who may be armed in your driveway or out by your mailbox, which would qualify to me as both important and urgent. And on page 18 of the strategic plan draft, goal 2 is strong perception of safety from everyone in the community. And I think you've heard a lot that that presently is not a strong perception. Objective 2.1 is invest in public safety equipment and staffing. So my urging would be, before it's formally adopted, before the implementation steps are articulated, get ahead of it, and please let us know what we can continue to do to be supportive of you in your work in supporting Chief Drum. The meeting we had on December 1st was very illuminating, and we want to do whatever we can to support him in getting the tools he needs to address the issue. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. You didn't think I wouldn't speak. So Jim Ferenczi, 47 Seaview. I want to say thank you. I said that 2.5 years ago when we first met in July of 21. We are not here to be critical of the Board of Police Commissioners or the police department. We're here to help you do more, because what you're hearing from all of us is a sense of desperation that we need more. And these stories that I've learned about in some parts in connection with the petition, and this board was copied on the petition, although it was directed to the first select woman, the Board of Selectmen and the Board of Finance, because that's where the buck stops and that's where the money comes from. But we wanted you guys to be aware of it. 277 people in 2.5 or 3.5 days over Thanksgiving weekend came together and signed that petition. And they included people not just down from the Waterbury, Barberry, Middle Beach area, but people like Linda and others from in North Madison. I view this problem, having now been around it for 2.5 years, as being a cancer that has the potential of affecting the entire town in ways that are predictable, right? Beyond violence, property values at some point stop going up when you become the town where crime happens. Real estate taxes don't get paid. They certainly don't go up. And so there's lots of bad things that can happen here. But what you're hearing from everybody, and I can't speak for the people on the Zoom, but I'm sure you'll hear similar stories, is anger, frustration, fear. And I think that's the thing that has to be taken out of this. And what you're doing, we want you to do more. And from what I understand from the last meeting, that the Board of Police Commissioners, is that what you are going to be proposing ultimately to the Board of Selectmen and the Board of Finance is two things: more manpower or person power and technology. You are the experts. We are not the experts. We know what we want, we know what we need. You need to tell us and them that, and please accept that, because what you're hearing from the community is something that's real. And we understand, by the way, and maybe we're misinformed, that in previous budget cycles, this board and this commissioner and this police chief have asked for similar things, and it has not been passed. We're at the point where that's not acceptable. And so we're begging for help. That's what you're hearing from us. But again, I'll finish where I started, which is thank you for everything you're doing.
Thank you, Jim. Any other comments? Let me make just very, very brief remarks in terms of the message and the information and the perspective that you're conveying. And that is, I think we hear, we understand the concerns. I think in terms of, our discussions, which are on a pretty regular basis with the Board of Selectmen, Jen from the Board of Finance, we think there's also an awareness and a recognition there. On the other hand, things evolve, and what is going to be shaping, our resource requests and our resource allocations are for several key components. And one, I think we are going to try to focus on prevention. We're not a gated community. On the other hand, we think resources can be allocated where there's more police visibility, there's more engagement with the community. And so one of the things is going to be how do we minimize what is occurring, and we saw the success when we educated people about locking their cars. The year after we went through that campaign, car theft and break-ins went down. So one of the things, one component is prevention. The second part of it is incidents are going to happen, no matter what we do. So the second component is the response time. How quick, if an incident does happen, can we get the right asset included, which is an officer, to the spot where he or she can provide help. And one of the things that has been acknowledged, and the chief, I think, has done an excellent job in researching, is how can we use technology and invest in technology so that it cuts across both of those areas. We can be made aware of something before it happens, and if it does happen, we can respond with the right force to be there. So that's how we're going to try to put it together, and that's, I recognize a general view, but we're aware because we're in the community. I mean, we have the friends, neighbors, and while some of us have not had an incident happen, we certainly know other people who had some break-ins or some concerns, and so we hear you loud and clear in terms of where we need to go in the future in terms of both our current budget cycle, but also planning beyond that, because some of these actions are multi-year. We have been in a focused recruiting cycle, and it just takes significant time to source the right people, then to get them trained in the right procedural and certification process, and then get them to the point where they are teamed with other experienced officers, if that's the case, where they're absolutely, the return on the investment we've made. So we very much appreciate your remarks, and one of the things that is absolutely essential, and you could put a title on it a number of titles on it, whether it's community policing, but the engagement of a trained officer interacting with citizens in the community is absolutely essential to success going forward in all areas, in prevention and response, in awareness. We said it, that, you know, stealing the phrase that certainly is almost worldwide now. If you see something, say something. If you know, we've never ever, I think, have expressed some exasperation when somebody called in and said there's a truck parked in the driveway, and it turns out it's somebody delivering a package. You know, so our effort to remain involved. We're a small enough community so that we can become aware and related to concerned citizens or neighborhood representatives, and have that relationship be a very effective part of our whole program going forward. So thank you for your remarks tonight. We absolutely heed the comments and we'll take those into account going forward. So.
Moving on a little bit from what Ed just said, it is very helpful to the commission and the department to see at least a dozen residents here actively willing to participate in the conversation, plus another 9 or so, 10 or so in Zoom meetings. This is the start of the process. We have to allocate funds for the cops. We have to allocate funds for the equipment that we're going to need. It's going to take some time, and we can only request that the enthusiasm that comes from your concern about your safety, which is very real, continues to carry forward through the year. Please don't stop coming to these meetings. Please don't stop challenging the Police Commission, the Board of Selectmen, the Board of Finance for their participation in allowing the town to do the right thing. What Jim has put together, and I address Jim because he seems to be the spokesman for the group, and I appreciate everybody talking, continued to push us to help make this thing happen, because it's going to take some time. There's a significant amount of dollars involved, which has not been in the budget in the past. The requests for additional officers, depending upon whose statistics you look at, could range anywhere from 3 to 7 or 8 or 10, whether you look at a town report, whether you look at the FBI report. We have to find a balance somewhere within the parameters of costs, efficiency, and how our department runs. But please don't stop pushing us, please don't stop suggesting, and please don't stop making comments, whether they're in public like this, or sending letters to any one of the commissioners or the chief and the staff.
Can I just talk a little bit about that, because we've been pushing it for 2.5 years. I mean, let's be honest. And the situation, and Chris said it when we first got back together as this problem manifested itself again, it's not a whole lot better, and arguably it's worse than it was 2.5 years ago. Because they're all over the place, these perpetrators. I mean, we've got Waterbury video, we've got Seaview video, it goes on and on and on. They are like cockroaches out there in the night. And worse than that, they're now doing it in broad daylight. So how much more do we have to push for this to resonate with the people that basically make the decisions? That's my frustration.
I'm not suggesting.
No, but I'd like an answer. It's going to be
I'm
how
not
much
suggesting
more?
you have to
What's it
push
going to
any
take?
harder. I think your push has been very hard, and I think that in addition to the Police Commission, I think the Board of Finance is hearing it. I think the Board of Selectmen is hearing it. I know the Chief and the Commissioners, we're all hearing it. It is now upon all the departments involved in public safety to get some action. And it should not take another 2.5 years. We have a proposed budget for next year. And in that budget are officers and equipment to start the process.
Is it going to take somebody getting hurt or worse?
God,
Is that what it's going to take?
I certainly hope not.
So do all of
Look,
us.
I appreciate your remarks, okay? We've had a public comment session. Okay, yes.
If you don't mind if I don't stand, it's Walter Welsh, 14 Grove Avenue.
First of all, as Jim said, we thank you for looking at this and for the board thinking about what we need to do to solve this problem. Sometimes the pushback you'll get will be, is that going to fix the problem? And I think anybody who looks at this knows no single response will work. It's a multi-response. We're going to have to try all of it. More police, more technology. And we know that even when you do all of that, we're not going to sit there and say we're all going to be good again. But we need to make steps in the right direction. And then, as Jim is saying, we need to make them quick. But we understand, and I'm sure you understand, no single response is going to make this go away. It's multifaceted. You got to use all the tools you have.
Thank you. Thank you. Chief, Chief's report.
Okay, good evening. And, Elizabeth, those signs work. Tell people to stop leaving their fobs in the car. So, thank your son, put them together. Our budget. Not where we should be at this point. I mean, going to the half-year mark, we still have an uncovered wage, and the wage line of over 300,000. That's represented of the 3 open positions we have current authorized strength. We plan on filling those positions in late spring. Additionally, because we have new cars coming in, replacement cars, we had seen a spike in the last few months in some of the repairs, a little larger than we've experienced in the past. Also, there's difficulty in getting parts for some of these repairs. So that line is down to about $12,000, and it's down to $50,000. Hopefully, we'll make it to June. 2 overtime lines, overtime replacement and construction. Construction, as you recall, that's the line item transfer. When we have somebody work a construction site, we bill the vendor, just making the request to construction company or AT&T, and they reimburse the town a premium plus cost, labor, insurance, and the car. That goes back to the general fund. They do a line transfer before loading. Any questions?
So in the beginning, there was a lot of noise from the audience. I'm not sure I heard you or they heard you.
I can't hear you. I'm sorry.
Really?
I can't hear you.
Okay. In the beginning of your report, there was a lot of talking in the audience. I'm not sure I entirely heard it, and I'm pretty sure nobody there heard it. You said there are 3 open positions, and they will be filled in the next few months. Is that what I heard you say?
There's 3 open positions, which are authorized strength. The money is there.
Yes.
And that will be utilized. Probably won't be able to fill those before late spring, maybe even early summer. It's very difficult hiring police officers.
Everybody heard that? Okay.
Well, I made that clear, I believe, in the meeting we had on the 1st.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you.
So those are part of our current complement that we'll be moving forward with.
That's the authorized strength of the Madison Police Department.
We will-
31 officers.
We're talking about next year, 24-25 budget request as part of the new business discussion.
Okay. Any further questions on the budget? We'll discuss next year's budget, I believe, in new business. Am I correct on that?
Yes.
Okay. Monthly training report. We had approximately 164 hours of training. This is mandated training for recertification for our officers. Included in that was crimes motivated by bigotry and bias, active shooter instructor, crisis intervention, collect, and the monthly response team training. Of note is the CIT training, crisis intervention training, and the bias is mandated from Police Accountability Transparency Act, which passed in prior to July 2020. Explained, I believe, in previous meetings, previous years, what the impact would be for additional training. That's a good example of it.
Okay.
Traffic. Approximately 22 reported motor vehicle accidents, 4 involving injuries. Again, additional to that were animal strikes, deer, hart versus deer. One of the major causes of motor vehicle accidents in the town of Madison is following too close with people on their cell phone, distracted driving. were 3 private property accidents, those would be in the shopping center, and we had 3 assists to the Connecticut State Police on I-95, and I happen to have the pleasure of sitting on one of those crashes through the night. Any questions?
Okay.
Community calendar, the turkey trot went out very well, well attended. All that remains at this point is it's called Jingle Bell 5K, which was held this past week, and there may be some sort of plunge off of the surf club around New Year's. So they haven't gotten back to us yet. I know, Tom, you really want to make that.
Just to follow up on the chief's remark, a number of years ago, Special Olympics was doing the penguin plunge at the surf club. And based on your participation in the amount of money that you raised, you were awarded a bow tie. After my 6th year of doing it, at the suggestion of my children and my wife that it may not be in my best interest to continue to do it, I made one more attempt wearing all 6 bow ties, and I have a 5-foot trophy that says the Emperor Penguin for having raised the most money. And I still don't know where to put it. It looks like a bowling trophy. But if anybody would like to come down for the penguin plunge or whatever it's called this year, one year we actually had to have the town plow a path from the surf club into the water because everything was snowbound, and we still managed to go in. So whatever the cause is, it's a great cause. I'm not sure I'm going to be there. There are a couple of age restrictions. They may not even let me in the parking lot, but any of you young folks on that end of the room, come down and go swimming.
You're not going to share any of those photos, are you?
Just the one you thought I looked like Tarzan.
Okay. Very good. Still having a hard time sleeping. Okay, regional shared services. We have started a somewhat discussion again. And it started with the public safety tower network. And we have to do additional bills over the next few years. And that's more CIP right now, it's CIP, which is capital improvement plan. But the discussion came up, you guys talking about regional shared services, that being sharing the dispatch center. So we're going to have a discussion on Monday night in the Selectmen's office, in the Selectmen's meeting. I was asked by the first Selectman to have somewhat of a discussion on what are the possibilities, and perhaps we should look to maybe bring in a consultant to do an evaluation on sharing services and some of the network tower systems we have in town.
Well, as we reviewed in the past, the idea of combining dispatch functions with another community has some substantial advantages to both communities in the form of a $250,000 grant to each of the communities, and then an ongoing annual contributions of the amount of $50,000 to each of the communities. And all of us, if we look at our telephone bill, there's a tax charge of 58 or 78 cents per month per occupant, and these dollars are in a lockbox specifically designated by the state to enhance the integration of emergency communications. So it is something that is worthwhile exploring because it has some significant advantages to participating communities. Delighted that's back on at least the discussion phase with the regional consideration.
This is if I may, this is where you dial 911, it goes to the emergency dispatch center. In the state of Connecticut, they have almost 100 of them. It goes back to home rule, who's in charge, we have our own. So the state, they tried probably in the last 10 years that I can recall, trying to consolidate these. And they offer up, as the chairman, Mr. Chairman has said, incentives. When you build the system, they fund the build, they fund the building of the center, 40% of the labor. Additional to each community that participates, that's $250,000. I believe that's going up to $300,000 each community annually. If there has to be a hardware upgrade on the state system, they pay that. We jumped on a state system probably 10 years ago. It started at $10,000, now it's over $120,000 on the hardwood upgrades. So that's the direction. When everything that we do, it increases. So it makes sense. When you have communities such as us, Killingworth, Clinton, Guilford, that, you know, we all average probably very close to 13,000 to 40,000 calls for service. And that's all kinds of calls. You know. And it would make sense to consolidate and put it into one center, a super center. And because of communications, because of the PSTN lines, because of the copper lines, which is a backup with AT&T and others, you could be dispatched literally from anywhere. You could do it from Nebraska. So you still have a PD you walked into, you still have a firehouse, but it's a concept that really should be looked at because it does and will save a lot of dollars down the road. So that's basically it.
It's good news to at least have a discussion about it.
Any other questions on regional?
No.
All right, correspondence?
Any
Correspondence. Tom, you did such a good job.
No, wait. With all due respect, we've got a pretty full agenda. I don't think we need to read the correspondence.
Oh, very good. Okay.
Good. I mean, they're very complimentary, maybe in summary, just very complimentary notes about some of the officers, two of the officers.
There were two separate incidents where residents elected to take a moment and drop a note to the chief thanking them for the professionalism of how the cops responded in each specific incident, the rapidity of the response, and the professionalism of how it was handled.
Thank you, Senator. The traffic?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, most of you folks know that we installed the signage and the crosswalk and the Seaview Waterbury area. The speed sign is up. They adjusted it again today. What we learned is that the cell coverage there is tough. So that relies on that.
Yes, we know.
It also does, it records.
Putting to know that it happens all the time, but I haven't heard about it.
I think the billboard talked to us. Is somebody on the Zoom talking?
They keep unmuting themselves.
So the cell coverage obviously is difficult, so we rely on that. So we made some of the part of the sign independent, and we're doing basically, it's kind of like a manual log of it. So that sign is up. We have two more going on Liberty Street with the blind spot where the hedges are. And we put the secondary sign up on Railroad Avenue. That's operational. There's one right in front of our complex here, town campus, which is, we're waiting to have that dialed in. When we purchase these, we're also given up to a 5-year contract with a cloud. So we're at the mercy of them to help us as we dial this in. So I've had a usual, complaints of speeding. We've addressed that. If officers are, I think you see a remarkable difference of police officers out there running radar enforcement, particularly on the high-speed roads. So that's all I have on traffic.
New business.
Nothing additional on traffic.
Okay. New business. This is one of the key items was to talk about probably the third discussion we've had regarding our proposed request for the 24-25 budget year. So Chief, why don't you walk us through the requests, a summary that we have here.
What I've handed out prior to the meeting, you should have a copy of the staffing profile. You have this current year and you have next year's based on authorized ground. That's not including any additional requests for officers. You also have the vehicle replacement schedule. The 4 vehicles that are, I believe, will approve the finance this week will be delivered soon, hopefully, and we'll put them into service. We've been very successful taking the older cars and putting them on municipal bid and bringing back money that goes into that account, the replacement fund. We had buy 4 cars that they wanted to give us $5,000 for. We sold them on municipal bid for $24,000. So it's well worth the effort. I'm going to start with the back. You should have additional budget requests. And on the back page, I'm going to start with that one first. This is also going in, it's initially going in as a special appropriation. The various Board of Finance, Board of Selectmen is on for the Selectmen's office for Monday. There's a consideration it may be used, paid for with the ARM funds, the ARPA funds. So I have it here just in case I need it as a placeholder to submit if we have to go into the next budget year. And essentially that is for 12 monitor and record remote camera systems for the town. And placement will be in various areas as we take the crime index, we break it down with the high traffic area. Also, we had most influx of auto theft or other crimes, larcenies, and that's where we'll be placing that. We did a study of the town. I don't have all of that.
Campaign is running itself quite brazenly, or does that dissipate if we're too divided?
Somebody's speaking.
Holly, maybe a chat to tell
Yeah,
people
you have
to
to
stay
take them
muted,
off the,
that they're,
out of the attendance.
But they're actually not, like, it's a Zoom, it's not webinar, so they're not, there's no way to remove them.
They're not
And I can mute them
participants.
all
Yeah,
and they're just getting
and keep going back, yeah.
What's the shut on this thing?
This is,
We asked them just to mute it for now.
oh, they are, I'm, you all.
You can jump in every time they.
Yeah, that's what I'm
mute
doing.
them all.
Okay, so these are monitor record remote camera systems with the license plate reader. License plate reader is a device that tells us it has what is stolen. It also gives us the listing of the car, vehicle. The cost per unit is $6,670. That's all in. That includes what we're looking for with static IP and access into the vehicles. And what I mean by that is that if it's 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, and we have one of these placed on, let's say, Route 1 by Liberty Street. And we've had a car make 2 or 3 turns in that area during that period of time, and we have the plate, we're saying it's out of hypothetically Waterbury. The officers, if they're not in the area, they're going to move that way. So it basically becomes a second line of defense, officers being the first line of defense, but it's an incredible force multiplier. So the Board of Selectmen and Board of Finance members I did speak with said, let's move it up and put it on for the agenda on Monday and see if we make a special appropriation or the ARPA funds. But I have that in here in case I have to go into the next budget year. Right, so they're voting on that on Monday and then voting on it after the first of the year. Now,
Chief,
as far as
just a question about the cameras, if I may, some are stationary, some are mobile, so we can react, have you made any decisions?
I'll get to that.
Okay.
Right. These are fixed cameras that will go at the larger intersections are 2 cameras. The exit ramps are 1 camera. Entrance to some neighborhoods are 1 camera. But if you might recall, you were there for the meeting, we did the demonstration. It really is, it's the technology over last year and the last 3-4 years, it's amazing how it's just jumped, and the prices come down. By the way, that price per camera is 5 years all in. That's it. They warranty it, they install it. The cameras probably won't be available to spring, late spring. I know you folks want to hear when we're going to see this stuff, but that's probably the best guess that I can see. So 12 of these to start is approximately $80,040. Any questions on that?
So if this is voted on and the budget is allocated in a special appropriation?
Oh, come on.
Would you, it'll come off, you're not going to ask for additional cameras for the new fiscal year?
Okay. Come on.
Okay.
I have to see what the temperature is as we go through the process. So.
I mean, in an ideal world, would you ask for
All right,
additional
listen,
cameras?
I have to also cover Route 80, the circle up by the Durham line. We were able to, we boxed in 4 kids that did a bunch of thefts between Clinton and Guilford in our town about 3 weeks ago.
Right.
Okay, the youngest was 12, the oldest was 16. They were from Meriden, Waterbury, New Haven. So we haven't come from everywhere, you know, and not just us, obviously all the towns. So we just want to be able to have this extra tool that when the officer is static or he or she is moving, that it will set an alarm off in the car. And they'll be able to bring up the camera and start moving, or whatever resources you have available, moving towards that location.
One of the things that really came across was to me when the chief went through a more in-depth demonstration. This absolutely hit the two elements that we talked about, I mentioned earlier, and that is the prevention. So if this car is driven down Middle Beach or Randy Drive 3 times at 3 o'clock in the morning, there's going to be a ping. You know, if this car has a stolen plate, there's going to be a ping, and that is going to go into the vehicle of an officer. And just as the chief said, the difference between saying, why is this white Camry driving up and down the road at 3 o'clock in the morning? Because you can set the control to say, this same vehicle goes by here twice in an hour, and the hour is between 3 a.m. and 4 a.m., there's going to be an officer in a patrol car who's going to be alerted, and you know, the idea is going to be, you know, to get there, you know, in a timely way, either in a response, ideally, before it's happened, so he can pull over this car and say, hi guys, what are you doing? You know, so anyway, as the chief expressed it, I mean, it is, and we think certainly the positive reaction from the Board of Selectmen and hopefully within the Board of Finance, there's some advantages given the fact that there's a broad recognition for the impact of this kind of technology, and that's the challenge we have now. How do we get our place in the supply chain queue so that we can install this as soon as we can? Anyway, it's you know, as the chief mentioned, the difference between this from 36 months ago on the software and the capability is extraordinarily more effective. Anyway, thank you.
Okay. And again, if they're going to move towards the ARPA funds or special appropriation, then they'll be removed from the request. The next one is the taser replacement. The tasers the officers carry were due for replacement and we essentially don't replace them all at once. We do it over a 3-year period. And so we do replace 10 more units. The cost with all the needed equipment that goes with that, and the taser cartridges and training, is $17,566. So that is the additional budget request. Got to remember, our budgets are submitted as flat. They go in, and then they want to see each additional increase separate. With the exception of, you see with fuel, you can see with some of the support expenses we have in all the agencies in town, that's how they like to submit it as 0, and then we add. So 17,566. It was too small amount to put it in CIP, so it didn't make any sense. So that's why they said when you need them, ask for it. That was the last 3 years ago. That's what I'm doing again. The next request is for 6 more of the solar speed signs, or radar signs. I have a lot of success with that. We're getting a lot of requests for those. They're not cheap. It costs, you know, half a dozen installed is approximately $32,000. So I'm going to make the request for 6 additional. You might recall we had this discussion. We wanted it all in. We wanted more than 20 of them initially, and we said let's just do it as we move along. They're a great tool. They work. It tells us the compliance. That's why it's important to have the able to communicate with the sign, because it gets all the data on it. You'd be surprised that on Route 1 the signs, the compliance is over 80% for the Route 1 signs. And people will send me little notes saying, thank you, I'd like to thank you. That comes in the end. So we have some people, we did put a couple signs out, people didn't like them in front of their property. You know, so I tried to explain to them, they said for various reasons. So I will address their concern a little later on, and I moved it to another location next on the list of people who made the requests. So I need to put them a little further north, some of the neighborhoods that have the school zone. And like I said, they're a great tool. For the investment we make of approximately, you know, you're looking at 6 signs for 32 installed. the actual signs, the installation cost actually is almost $1,000 per sign because it involves a concrete setting, it involves complying with municipal standards, and has to be breakaway pole. So, any questions on that request? Okay, the last request, and this is a request for, now we're filling 3 positions in this current year, correction, budget year, 2024. I anticipate probably being able to fill those by late spring, and that would be the best case scenario. It's very difficult finding officers, and we've been very good with the officers that we have hired. I was at a reception today for 2 of our officers that were both individually, 2 different academies, were #1 in their class. So they were recognized by the CPCA Chiefs Association at their lunch before this, with about 7 other officers around the state. So that's a big deal that Madison had 2 in that. So we're doing hopefully our due diligence, and it seems to be working. We have to get somebody that, someone made mention of being an officer in Hartford, New Haven, or Bridgewater City versus being an officer in Madison. I think a lot of folks, it's attractive to work in Madison or in Guilford or one of the shoreline communities, and I get that, especially as a young kid trying to be a police officer. So I would rather, lack of term, measure twice, cut once on the right person. So I anticipate we'll fill the 3 positions that are authorized by the boards for this budget year. What I'm looking for, and you have I put in that packet I put on your different areas, your different desks. There are 251 constructions going on right now in the town of Madison. That's from 40-some-odd units off of Cottage Road to 4 units above a business to a 3-unit housing project to a multiple housing project, 18 units on the other end of Cottage Road, more senior. Some of the services, some of those are affordable housing, so you have 60%, example, the housing outside Windermere, but behind where Cone Bagel is, that's 60% affordable, multiple bedroom. And you folks are in the meeting on December 1st, we did touch on this, is that it's not, forget the number of people, forget that we have to, number of people, but we have to go to a location. So that's 251 more potential locations for fire, ambulance, police, medic to go to. All right. So that's a concern going down the road. For me, I look at it, and this is all years of policing, my observations, is that, we end up with the medical calls, we're the first there, with the ambulance and the fire department, with either oxygen, defib, which if you have a loved one on the floor needs help, having us come to the door very quickly is paramount. You have to have the resources to do that. Also, we see some changes in crime statistics. I know we talked about Madison's experience with the auto theft and others, but other communities are experiencing the same, and at a greater, in some respects, higher. I always I take it with a grain of salt, as they always say Madison is one of the 10 safest towns in the state of Connecticut. They don't feel my pain when I have to deal with ham and acid with 27,000 people in the summer, or the other things we do, and of course, the auto theft. And listen, nobody wants to go out and have their dog do that walk at 2 in the morning with your dog, get some fresh air, and then have to be accosted or have somebody come by and scare the heck out of you. So, with that, I'm going to propose that we look for an officer in the, going into next year's budget in January, a deferred, looking for an officer in January going into 25. And in June 1st of that same year, and then obviously July 1st of the 25-26 budget year would be the full cost of both officers. The impact on that, based on the current CBA, the current cost of equipment, and my guess that may go up 2.5%, may go up 3%, is about $84,000 to accomplish that. Now, that would probably be lateral transfer type officers. So I wouldn't have to have the expense of setting up for the time lag to the academy. Addition to that would be, I think that would meet the demand in the next 5 years. I was asked by some members of different boards, where do I see us in 5 years, Jack? I said, you're going to have a few more. officers. And I'm not an advocate for the fire and ambulance, but they're going to probably have to reassess what they have there also to respond to the needs of the town. And it's a popular place. We have a lot of people that come into Madison, particularly in the summer months. So I think that's I think it's a very conservative approach. I hope at least we'll have a discussion on it, but this is the only opportunity I have to put that in there. So this won't go in until the last moment. I know there's other discussions I have to have with some of the boards. Questions, comments, observations?
So, my understanding that the sequencing that you're suggesting is taking into account the fact that we're going to be bringing 3 new officers in this spring at some point, and then January will be another officer, and then obviously June. So, you know, I can appreciate
The following year.
following year. Yeah. I can appreciate the fact.
Or actually next month. Yeah.
Appreciate the fact that, you know, given that we just have had, I think we might get 5 officers who just completed the academy over the last 12 months, or is it 6? 6. Okay, so part of, you know, you educated us is the coordination and the cohesiveness of the police officers. And so part of it is, you know, how do we bring them in and integrate them in so there's the absorption of this is how we do it here in Madison. So the fact that we'll end the next fiscal year with 2 additional budgeted positions, I think is the key takeaway from this.
Yeah, well, and also with our 3 officers that we're going to be putting on in the spring, that's going to help. Listen, we've been operating without the 3 officers for over a year now. And although the overtime is spiked, we've made do, but it's been a struggle. It's been a struggle. And take away just trying to do the job, just giving the time off that they have in their contract is very difficult. We have to order people in consistently. Or we have people, my staff or I will work. We worked the other night in the storm. So I have to order everybody in. It's, so I just want to put it on there and listen, we may be able to sustain and go in beyond that period of time, but if I don't put it on, they won't consider it. So that's the process. Yeah.
Well, I think, you know, to me, and I'm going to ask for a formal vote on this. The key with the cameras, the other taser, radar, we've seen, as you pointed out, the effectiveness of the speed signs in terms of just slowing traffic down, which has been an issue, continues to be an issue. So, you know, this is, I think, a budget request that, you know, certainly reflects some of the work of you and your leadership team there. And, you know, I think it is responsible, and hopefully there will be some consideration in terms of the cameras. If we can get that sooner, that would be terrific in terms of responding to some of the concerns that we've included, what we've heard continuing to hear. So, does anyone have, from Commission point of view, anyone have any concerns or reservations about any of these budget items?
No, I don't. My only question would be just, so we're authorized to have 31 officers.
Yes.
Due to medical leave or other leave, when was the last time we really had 31 officers?
Over 2 years ago.
Over 2 years ago. And so what would you say is the average number that we have? What's your ballpark guess? Are we at like 27 or 26?
About between 27 and 28, 29.
Yeah.
So it's going to make a difference. So there's no doubt that 3 additional officers returning is going to have an impact that way. They're all going to patrol. So let's just say 1 more on each shift. I would love to have full complement on midnight shift particularly. But, and with that, and the camera technology, you know, this may be, maybe there is more time we could wait. But if I don't put it there, I don't have we can't have the discussion down the road.
So I would ask, why wouldn't you ask for one of the officers on July 1st of 2024? Why are you waiting until January 1st of 2025?
The fiscal impact.
Yeah, but with knowing how long it takes to identify officers and hire them, the pool is not very big. I mean, we've been here for, you know, I've been here 40 years, seeing how long it takes to hire people, even lateral transfers. Why wouldn't you just at least ask? Because with the possibility that they wouldn't be on the payroll till January 1st anyway. That may be something that I might, you know, want to push for.
I enjoy it, and I say that very important to me is the respect I have with the other boards.
Oh, yeah, no, I
and
understand.
credibility. So if I go and say, hey, I need a car now because there's an issue, I've always, Jack, what do you got? What's going on? Okay, things happen. I just know that with personnel, you know, you've been down 3 officers, Jack. They're going to be filling those. When we just take a breath between. Let's see. Let's see what's the development in the town. Let's see there may be some other changes. You know, there's also what I didn't put in there is not approved yet. You have across from this campus over 40 units that are going in, and a medical building. So there's other things that are happening. I don't think we'll ever see a Walmart, but.
I would.
That's helpful, thank you.
Yeah, I would hope if this staffing requests are approved, that we would certainly take the position that we are recruiting for the officer who's going to start January 1st, 2025, with the idea we can make a job offer in October and say, we're making a job offer. We're certainly not going to start recruiting January 1st of 25. So I think there is, and the chief has acknowledged, we have a real challenge and an urgency to go out and get qualified officers, and that is going to be a real challenge to the chief. But I think that's what we need to do. We need to come up with strategies to say, you know, ideally we can find capable lateral transfers who do not have to go through the academy. But, you know, the challenge, and certainly we're going to have the off-Broadway test market this spring to say, oh, how long did it take us to hire 3 officers? Because once we start that process, it is, you know, we're going to be talking about it every month about where are we in the recruitment. It is going to be a challenge and for the chief, and he's got some key people who've been involved in recruiting before, but it's going to be, you know, for those individuals, hey, what have you done for me lately? We need 3 officers. So.
Can I
Sure.
ask a question? So if we proceed down this path, which looks like we are, so I would ask Al and Jeannie, is there a mechanism halfway through the budget year when we say, all right, we filled all our positions, we're now 31, we're full. We really feel like if we could get another 2 officers in addition to these cameras and everything, that would really help. And it looks like there are viable officers out there. Is there a mechanism midway through the year for us to come back to you and ask for that? Or is it once at the beginning?
So there's
is it
always-
now or never?
So there's always the opportunity in an emergency you could hire, right? So there's always that. If you got the 3 filled and then you want another one. I think what Jack is doing is saying, I just want a placeholder because if it's not an emergency but he feels like he needs them, he wants to have that discussion now. So I think he's leaning on the side of just being safer to request them.
Well, I mean,
Does that answer your question?
It answers it, I'm not sure I like it. But
Yeah, okay, that's my point.
yeah, I mean, I appreciate the the fact that there's an expense sensitivity to this. On the other hand, you know, if this is approved as a budget item, it's, we're certainly going to not have the expectation that the chief has this as a placeholder. We're going to take the position.
Right, so let me back, the placeholder might have been the wrong word. All I'm saying is he wants it on there so that there's not an emergency
Right.
where he can't have it. So placeholder was a bad choice of words. That's why he's saying January, because the idea is you fill those three, and then if you have it in the budget for January, then like you said, you wouldn't start recruiting in January, you would start recruiting, you know, in the fall to get it.
You might recall when we had the discussion, when we had the discussion of hiring the additional 2 officers in precinct or three, there was some discussion as to whether we should break it down and do we started in June, and we explained that there was obviously a lag time to hire somebody. And that was probably the middle of the crisis, coming out of COVID, you know, so the first, we presented it as 3 with the selectmen's office, and they understood, but we went with 3, we're talking, the 2, we're talking about a half position, and at the time when we had full complement, we're doing okay. So that was another discussion in a few months, next budget year. So I just, as I said, I use the term deferred. I just want it out there. As we move along, as the town infrastructure changes, you know, those are real. When you have that many sites, plus potential for another over 100. You know, there's a couple of litigation, if they come out of litigation, that's going to change that. So that it's not just going to impact the police department, it's going to impact all things we do in critical infrastructure.
But once the line is there, like right now, you're not filling those 3 lines, but the money's there. So when you choose to fill it, you fill it. So I think that's where he's going in January.
Okay.
But for me, like as I said, I've been very, very blessed that in my time here, that I was, maybe because I was my town selectman at one time, it's very important to have that credibility with the different boards, and that when you go in, you won't always agree. It doesn't mean we won't agree on everything the next time. So I understand that process. Anyway, that's the reason. I hope that answers as to why.
Oh, yeah, no, that's great.
So let me ask, is there a motion for the police commission to endorse these additional budget requests as drafted for fiscal 24-25?
I would make that motion.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, Chief?
Okay, I'm okay to submit the special appropriation for Monday night's meeting with Board of Selectmen for the cameras.
Great.
And if that's the case, I'll withdraw.
Okay. So
What's just real quick, what's the turnaround time on?
Pardon?
If we get approval, what's the lead time? And
I
get them up
feel
and
terrible
running?
when we did the vendors. They were down Fairfield County. They were giving all us excuses. We hadn't got on a train. We met them at the train station, and then we drove them around so they could complete their study. So we're really pushing them on that. I don't think we'll see them before spring, maybe late spring. I'm going to start the infrastructure on it. If the money's approved, I'm going to start putting the holders, and you'll see those put up, and then the cameras when they get together. You know, we just had a replacement on our body cams. You know, we thought that was 6 months out. Bang, done. You know, that was part of our contract with them for 5 years. So hopefully that will be the same thing as we get in their technology. These cameras are also made in the United States, as well as our body cams, which is huge because we don't have a lot of the supply chain issues or parts.
Well, if they were to be approved as a special request, I think we wouldn't submit it unless there was an absolute emergency. So, you know, I think this is one that, and the chief in terms of dealing with some other items, I know from our experience in the past, does a pretty good job bird dogging these with, you know, the vendors. So, you know, I recognize we don't control it, but the fact that, you know, we can fast track it, such as putting up the stanchions and identifying the locations and doing all the prep work before the actual cameras and software gets here. But anyway, it would be great. The sooner we can get these up, the better, because we've certainly heard how impactful they can be. Okay, good. Chief, thank you. Helpful. Included in your pack is the 2024 regular meeting calendar. Holly, do we have to approve that?
Yes.
Okay. You can see it will continue to be the second Thursday of the month. As you look at the dates, you can feel the excitement build. Is there a motion to accept the calendar as drafted?
I move.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Marietta, you can feel free to come any Thursday.
Thank you, I'll be on the other side. Join them. Welcome.
That will be challenging.
Chief liaison with agencies, any other?
I was talking today with the state police and some of the other chiefs about reestablishing the auto theft task force, in this region. I guess they're all presenting budgets and seeing where it goes, but at some point, our enforcement team that travels south, they may end up with a dual role, different hours of the night. So we're hopeful for that.
What's the timing of that, Chief?
I couldn't tell you. I asked, it involves other agencies, it involves other people that run their agencies.
For the sake of that end of the room, what the chief is talking about, you're probably aware of it, we have been able to, with the help of 5 towns, gather 1 police car from each of these towns, and they take a day, an assigned day, and all the outside vehicles with traffic enforcement come in and highlight traffic in that particular town. So you have a North Branford, perhaps Guilford or Clinton, in addition to the Madison patrol car, all working in one town for one day. And the results have been pretty dramatic for a speed enforcement, traffic enforcement view, with having 5 extra cars just dedicated to that for one job. The back effect of that is that the residents don't know when it's going to happen again, so they tend to slow down for a while. It works rather well. And as the chief said, if the request is in now to get those cars and that kind of grouping in for evening patrols, night patrols in sensitive areas, that would be an additional plus.
I just have one more thing. Sure. Okay, and I'll just, if I may, because I know you folks like Commissioner comments, but I just want to say, Maria, thank you very much for all you've done for this department, for me. I learned a long time ago, we are because of the people around us, the people that support us. I have always valued, even when we did disagree, we agreed. I've always valued your counsel and what you have brought to this organization. On behalf of men and women and others that make up the Madison Police Department, thank you from the bottom of my heart.
Tom, make some comments?
No, said enough for tonight.
Michael?
No, thank you.
Yeah?
Nothing to
Can I comment?
You absolutely have to comment. And goodbye is not a comment.
No, I think it's been, 10 years, and my term's coming to an end. It seemed responsible to retire at this juncture. It was becoming increasingly difficult to attend the meetings due to other responsibilities and not being 100% as committed as I expect myself to be. So it's bittersweet, but I know you guys are in great hands. The town of Madison is in great hands. I think one of the things I'm most proud that we got accomplished while I was here was the School Resource Officer Program, which was a sort of a town-wide effort to get that through. And my hope for the commission in the future is to get these cameras installed and to get the shared services programs in place, that I think are the most important things that this commission can do moving forward. So it's been an honor to serve. Thank you to the selectmen for the opportunity. Thank you to all of you.
Well, thank you very much. It is going to feel unusual not to have you as one of the wingmen here, and commissioners may not know, but when we had the opportunity, or invited, or requested to sit down and work with the school superintendent of the school resource officer program, this was coming from an environment after Sandy Hook, where there were just a lot of issues that had to be sorted through, and Marietta, given her legal background, and graciously agreed to be the point person on this and draft the agreement that we, both the school system and the police commission ultimately signed. And it was, that agreement was crafted in such a way that it has endured for, I guess, 8 years, 10 years, just about?
I think it's more than 10 years, yeah. Sandy Hook, 10th anniversary, I think it's today.
Well, but your agreement was after that, but it was that well drafted that even after you looked at it over a period of time, everyone said, yep, still fair, still clear, we still want to do it. So that was absolutely, I think, a milestone accomplishment. So thank you very much. The other thing, Chief, I think the material you put together for the budget, we all recognize, is not the end of it, it's the start of just this budget cycle. As the community evolves, as it grows, as the expectations of the community can continue to become more focused, we're going to spend more time looking at, how can we respond to those expectations, and certainly you and your fellow officers are just a critical component of this community, as are the school systems and the other first responders. I mean, you're really part of the basic infrastructure. So good. This is a good start, I think, in terms of looking at this particular year. With that, we do have an executive session